The first time I saw Rowan Vale, 3,000 students were laughing at him. Not chuckling, not whispering. Laughing so loudly the crystal chandeliers above the Ascendant Academy's awakening hall trembled. I was standing in the second row with the other scholarship students when the silver appraisal pillar announced his class in letters 10 feet high. C and EPR, 1 star. For a heartbeat nobody understood. Then someone in the noble section snorted. Another student shouted, "Does he light the dormitories?" And the entire hall exploded. Rowan stood alone on the black marble stage, one hand still pressed against the pillar, his uniform sleeves too short, his boots repaired with dark thread, his face completely still. Around him floated the results everyone cared about. Strength potential, E. Agility potential, E. Mana capacity, F. Combat affinity, none detected. Class description, maintains light sources. Basic skill, Kindle. That was it. No hidden second page, no rare bloodline notification, no divine blessing. In an academy where even a 2-star class could ruin a career, Rowan had awakened one of the weakest civilian classes ever recorded. I remember feeling sorry for him for exactly 7 seconds. Then Professor Selim, our combat dean, stepped forward and said, "Cadet Vale, regulations allow you to withdraw before ranking placement. It would spare you unnecessary humiliation." Rowan finally looked up. His eyes were gray, almost colorless, and far calmer than mine would have been. "Will withdrawing erase my tuition debt?" he asked. A few people laughed harder. Selim's mouth tightened. "No, then I'll stay." That answer changed how I saw him. Everyone else heard stupidity. I heard calculation. I knew what debt sounded like because my mother had sold half our farm to pay the fees I could not cover with scholarship money. Rowan walked off the stage while students mimed carrying candles around him. He ignored them until Darius Kane, heir to House Kane and newly awakened 5-star Stormlancer, blocked the aisle. Darius held up one finger and sparked a tiny bolt of lightning over it. "Need a flame?" Rowan glanced at the spark. "No, too bright." More laughter. Rowan leaned closer. "Too wasteful." Darius's smile vanished. Rowan passed him and took the empty seat beside me because nobody else wanted him nearby. I should have looked away. Instead, I whispered, "You know he's going to make your life miserable now." Rowan placed a cheap notebook on his desk. He was already planning to. "How do you know?" He opened to the first page. Written across it were names, schedules, classroom numbers, and tiny observations about nearly every important student in our year. Darius Kane, attacks with right shoulder forward. Celine Arct, cast shields before dodging. Tomas Veer, watches instructor before choosing answers. My own name was there too. Mira Solon, checks exits whenever room gets loud. I stared at him. "Why am I in your notebook?" Rowan finally smiled. "Because everyone laughed at my class. Nobody noticed I spent the ceremony studying theirs." That should have been my warning. Rowan was not strong, gifted, noble, charming, or particularly interested in being liked. He was observant in the unnerving way a starving person studies a locked pantry. During our first combat lesson, Professor Selim divided us by star rating. 5-star students trained near the arena center beneath enchanted banners. 4 stars received steel weapons. 3 stars received reinforced wood. 2 stars were sent to the outer ring. Rowan was told to carry lantern oil from storage. I was a 3-star thread blade, which meant I could create mana threads sharp enough to cut cloth, skin, and eventually armor if I survived long enough to train them. It was respectable, not extraordinary. I expected Rowan to disappear into maintenance work. Instead, every time I looked toward storage, he was watching the lesson. Selim demonstrated how dungeon creatures telegraphed attacks through weight shifts, breathing, pupil movement, and mana pressure. Rowan carried crates past us without appearing interested. At the end of class, Selim released 3 training goblins and challenged the 5 stars to defeat them under 30 seconds. Darius finished in 12. Applause. Then one goblin broke its restraint. It sprinted toward the outer ring where the lower-ranked students were removing armor. Panic lasted maybe 2 seconds, but 2 seconds is enough for a blade to enter a throat. I saw the goblin raise its knife behind a boy who had not noticed. I launched a thread and missed by inches. Rowan stepped between them. He had no weapon, no armor, no combat skill. He raised his hand and used Kindle. A flame the size of a coin appeared over his palm. Everyone expected the goblin to ignore it. Instead, Rowan threw the flame at the floor. The goblin flinched sideways before it landed, exactly as Selim had explained monsters avoid unfamiliar magical effects before identifying them. Rowan kicked the creature's knee while its weight was shifted, caught its knife wrist with both hands, and drove its own blade beneath its jaw. Silence swallowed the arena. Rowan stood over the corpse, breathing hard. Kindle still burned uselessly on the stone. Selim's eyes narrowed. That was reckless. Yes, Professor. You could have died. Yes, Professor. You used a utility flame as a feint. You spent 40 minutes teaching us that dungeon creatures react to intent before impact. Selim stared at him for a long moment. Darius scoffed from the center ring. He killed one training goblin. Should we crown him? Rowan wiped blood from his fingers. No, he looked at the dead goblin. But you should probably fix the restraints. I laughed before I could stop myself. Darius heard. His expression told me I had just joined Rowan on a list I did not want to be on. That evening, when rankings were posted, Rowan was dead last, position 3012 out of 3012. Mine was 611. Darius ranked third. Someone painted one-star janitor across Rowan's dormitory door. He left it there. By the end of the week, students had turned his class into a running joke. They asked him to light cigarettes, candles, birthday cakes, and one idiot's trousers. Rowan charged them 1 copper coin each time. Within a month, he had earned enough to buy a second-hand dungeon bestiary. I began studying with him because I wanted access to that bestiary. That is the explanation I gave myself. The truth was that Rowan noticed things teachers did not. He knew which academy maps were copied from older editions, which monster sketches had inaccurate joint placement, and which instructors avoided answering questions about the sealed western wing. He also treated my thread blade like a puzzle rather than a mediocre class. Your threads become weaker with distance, he said one night as we sat beneath the library stairs after curfew. Obviously, no, they become thinner. That is different. I frowned. It feels weaker, because you pull them straight. He tied ordinary sewing thread between 2 chair legs, then twisted it around itself. Braids distribute tension. Mana threads are not rope. Have you tried? I had not. The next morning I braided 3 mana threads and cut through a practice shield rated for 4-star students. I stared at the clean split. Rowan wrote something in his notebook. You're welcome. That should not have worked. Most academy techniques were designed for common class structures. Yours is uncommon enough that nobody bothered experimenting. And Candlekeeper? Extremely common. You were the first Candlekeeper in academy history. I meant useless classes. He said it without self-pity. Rowan spent every free hour testing Kindle. The flame could not travel farther than 6 feet. It produced almost no heat. It could not ignite living targets. It consumed nearly 0 mana. That last part interested him. He discovered he could maintain hundreds of tiny flames simultaneously, then thousands. He learned each flame responded independently to changes in airflow. If something moved through a dark room, nearby flames bent. If invisible mana crossed them, their color shifted. If poison gas entered, they dimmed. Kindle was not a weapon. Rowan turned it into a sensor network. He scattered candle-sized flames through practice mazes and navigated blindfolded by feeling which ones flickered. He mapped air currents through stone tunnels. He detected hidden doors when flames leaned toward cracks. During our first-year dungeon practicum, teams were assigned to clear a safe E-rank ruin beneath the academy. Rowan's group complained so loudly about being paired with him that Selim offered to move him. Rowan refused. 2 hours later, his team finished first because he used Kindle to detect a pit trap buried beneath illusion magic. They told everyone it was luck. The next practicum, they finished second. The one after that, first again. Darius started calling him Candle Rat. Rowan started calling Darius Weather, only when Darius could not hear. I asked why he cared so much about dungeon mapping when his class would never qualify for advanced rates. He closed his notebook. Because my brother disappeared in one. I had never heard him mention family. Academy dungeon? Yes. Which one? His gaze shifted toward the western wing. The one they say nobody has ever entered. Every academy has a legend students are supposed to fear just enough to obey rules. Ours was the Grave of Stars, an SSS-Rank dungeon sealed beneath the oldest tower. Official history said it appeared 84 years ago during the Nightfall Cataclysm. 7 expedition teams entered. None returned. The academy built itself around the entrance because the kingdom wanted permanent researchers nearby, then eventually declared the dungeon impossible and sealed it behind 9 barriers. Students told stories anyway. Some said an ancient god slept inside. Some said the dungeon copied whoever entered and created stronger versions of them. Others claimed every floor rearranged itself based on fear. The only fact everyone agreed on was the survival rate: 0. Rowan's older brother Elias had been a 4th-year academy student 6 years before us. His file said he died during an off-campus expedition. Rowan had obtained a different document from a drunk clerk in records. Elias Vale, Emergency Support Unit, Grave of Stars Containment Breach. Status: missing. They used students during a breach? I whispered. Rowan nodded. 32 students. The academy told their families there was a mountain accident. How many survived? According to this, 11 reached the surface. Then why does everyone say nobody has returned? Because they were not officially inside. He showed me another page. 11 names. Beside 10, memory extraction complete. Beside Elias, extraction failed, target escaped containment. Your brother survived. For at least 3 days. How do you know? Rowan pulled a charred piece of paper from the back of the notebook. On it, barely visible, was Elias's handwriting. The dungeon does not test strength. It tests what you refuse to lose. Do not let them seal the heart. I read it twice. What is the heart? I don't know. Rowan looked toward the library windows, where the academy's oldest tower cut into the moon. But Professor Selim does. That was the first time I realized Rowan had not enrolled despite receiving a 1-star class. He had enrolled because of it. Nobody watched weak students carefully. Nobody expected them to investigate restricted archives. Nobody noticed when a candlekeeper volunteered for maintenance shifts near old tunnels. Rowan's humiliation was camouflage. The mockery helped him. His class rank made him invisible. I should have walked away then. Instead, I said, "What do you need from me?" He answered immediately, "Someone who checks exits when rooms get loud." We spent the next year breaking rules carefully. That distinction mattered to Rowan. He disliked reckless people almost as much as he disliked heroic speeches. We never stole keys when we could copy them, never broke a seal when we could photograph it, never entered a restricted room before confirming 3 exits. I learned more about the academy after midnight than I ever learned in lectures. Beneath the eastern dormitories were tunnels lined with names of students officially listed as transfers. The healing wing contained locked cabinets of monster cores marked with dates matching containment incidents. Professor Selim met twice a month with Director Halvern, the academy's silver-haired headmaster, inside a chamber protected by silence wards. Rowan used 3,000 Kindle flames hidden in ventilation shafts to read the air pressure changes caused by their voices. He could not hear words, but he could identify pauses, pacing, and when someone opened maps. That is completely insane, I told him. Thank you. Eventually, we found what he needed. A maintenance schematic showing the 9 barriers around the Grave of Stars. The entrance was not beneath the oldest tower anymore. It had moved. Dungeons sometimes grew like organisms, and the academy had expanded around it without telling students. The true gate now rested beneath Arena 1, directly under the place where ranking tournaments were held. They make us fight on top of it, I said. Probably helps reinforce the upper seal through mana discharge. Rowan traced the diagram. 3 barriers are powered by student combat, 2 by the city grid, 1 by the royal treasury. The final 3 are controlled manually. By who? Selim, Halvern, and someone identified only as Warden. I looked at him. Please tell me your plan is not to sneak into an SSS dungeon. My plan is to find out what happened to Elias. That was not a no. It was intentionally not a no. Before we could argue, the academy announced the Crown Trial, an annual tournament where the top 100 students competed for royal sponsorship. Rowan's ranking had risen from 3,012 to 2,881, mostly because several students had dropped out. He was not eligible. Neither was I. I had climbed to 302, but still sat far below the threshold. Then Director Halvern changed the rules. Any student could challenge a ranked competitor. Win once and you entered the bracket. The academy framed it as an opportunity for hidden talent. Rowan immediately became suspicious. They want high mana output over Arena 1, he said. More challengers means more fights. You think the dungeon seal is weakening. I think they need emergency reinforcement without admitting it. He challenged rank 99, a 4-star iron monk named Bren Tao. The announcement spread through campus within minutes. Students packed the arena not to watch an upset, but to watch Rowan get crushed. Darius sat with the favorites near the royal box and actually brought a candle. Bren was kind enough to look uncomfortable. "You can withdraw," he told Rowan. "People will forget by tomorrow." Rowan rolled his shoulders. "No, they won't." The bell rang. Bren activated Iron Body and charged. Rowan scattered 50 Kindle flames around the ring. Booing erupted. Bren punched through the first flame and nothing happened. He chased Rowan for 20 seconds, 30, 40. Rowan never attacked. He stepped, pivoted, ducked, and watched his flames bend around Bren's movements. "He's stalling," someone shouted. Correct. At 53 seconds, Bren's left foot dragged slightly. At 61, his iron aura flickered around the ribs. Rowan had studied the class beforehand. Iron Body protected muscles by forcing mana through the skin in a repeating circulation pattern. It was powerful and exhausting. Rowan moved closer. Bren swung. Rowan ducked inside the punch and slapped a Kindle flame against his chest. It did no damage. Bren laughed. Then Rowan hit the exact point where the aura had flickered, not with strength, but with the heel of his palm timed between pulses. Bren's own reinforced muscles locked around his lungs. He dropped to one knee, unable to inhale. Rowan stepped behind him and hooked an arm under his chin. "Yield." Bren tried to rise. His aura flickered again. "Yield." Bren slapped the floor. The arena went silent. Rowan Vale, Candlekeeper, rank 2,881, had just defeated the 99th student without a combat skill. Darius slowly lowered the candle in his hand. Rowan looked toward him and used Kindle to light it from across the arena. I nearly fell out of my seat laughing. The victory changed nothing and everything. People still mocked Rowan, but now they did it defensively. They called Bren weak. They said Rowan exploited a technicality. They said a real combat class would destroy him before he could observe anything. Rowan agreed with all of them. "They are correct," he told me while eating noodles from a cracked bowl in the dining hall. "You could at least enjoy winning." I enjoyed the prize money. He used half of it to pay debt and the other half to buy restricted monster records from a graduate student. In the crown trial, he lost his next match in 11 seconds to a 4-star flame dancer. She flooded the arena with fire so quickly there was no pattern to exploit. The crowd celebrated as if reality had corrected itself. Rowan walked away with burned eyebrows and valuable information. "Area saturation," he said. "Major weakness." "You getting incinerated?" "Yes." "Good analysis." The strange part was that I started rising faster than he did. With Rowan helping me redesign threadblade techniques, I reached the top 100 by spring. I learned to braid threads into cables, weave them into shields, anchor them to surfaces, and use vibration to sense movement. Suddenly, instructors who had ignored me wanted to claim credit. Darius began inviting me to train with the elite cohort. I refused twice. The third time, he cornered me after class. "Why do you keep wasting time with Vale?" he asked. "He helps me. He uses you." "For what?" "Access, reputation, protection. You are climbing while he remains almost last. Does that not tell you something?" It did. It told me Rowan's strengths did not fit the Academy's ranking system. But Darius planted a question I hated enough to ask. That night, I found Rowan beneath the library stairs. "If you reach the dungeon entrance, are you actually going inside?" He stopped writing. "Yes." "With me?" "No." The answer hurt more than it should have. "So Darius is right. You have been using me." "Yes." I stared at him. Rowan rarely lied, which occasionally made me want to strangle him. "You could pretend to feel bad." "I do feel bad." "Wonderful." I stood to leave. He caught my wrist. "Mira, I used your access because you became highly ranked. I used your threads to retrieve documents. I used your name to get into the advanced archive. And every time I did, I told you exactly what I needed. Except that when it mattered, you planned to leave me behind." His grip loosened. "Because Elias was stronger than both of us. So were the teams before him. The grave killed them anyway. You think going alone makes you safer? I think it means only one person dies if I am wrong." I pulled free. "That is not noble." "I know. It is arrogant. Probably. And stupid. Frequently. I hated that he would not fight me properly." "Then why?" Rowan looked down at Elias's charred message. Because if I ask you to come, you might say yes. I stopped. He continued quietly. I have spent 2 years learning what your class can do. I know your habits. I know how you react under pressure. I know you would follow me if you thought I needed you. I am not going to turn that knowledge into permission to risk your life. That was the closest Rowan ever came to confessing affection. Naturally, I responded by throwing his notebook at him. Idiot. He caught it. Accurate. If you go without telling me, I will personally drag you out of an SSS dungeon and kill you. That appears contradictory. Write it down anyway. He did. The grave opened 6 weeks later during the Crown Trial Finals. I was on the arena floor fighting Celine Arc for 7th place when every Kindle flame Rowan had hidden beneath the stands turned black. He was sitting in the lowest spectator section, nowhere near the competitors, but I saw him stand instantly. Beneath my feet came a sound like a giant knocking from underground. Once, twice, 3 times. Celine lowered her shield. What is that? The 4th knock split Arena 1 in half. Stone erupted upward. Thousands of spectators screamed. I anchored threads to the walls and caught 6 students before they fell into the widening crack. Darius launched into the air on lightning. Professors raised barriers. Director Halvoran shouted evacuation orders. Then something crawled out of the earth. It looked like a knight built from empty armor, 20 feet tall, with a galaxy turning inside its chest. The moment Professor Selim saw it, all color left his face. Star Warden. Rowan was already moving. The creature swung a sword through the royal box. He released hundreds of Kindle flames around its joints. Right knee, he shouted. I did not ask why. I braided 5 threads and cut across the knee as Darius struck from above. The warden staggered. Selim slammed a spear of mana through its chest. Instead of dying, the creature collapsed inward like paper burning. Behind it, the crack became a doorway. Black stone stairs descended into darkness filled with distant stars. The grave of stars had opened. Students ran. Teachers formed defensive lines. Rowan walked toward the stairs. I intercepted him. Absolutely not. The seal is already broken. That does not make this a field trip. Director Halvoran appeared behind us with blood on his ceremonial coat. Veil. Rowan turned. You knew this would happen. Halvoran's expression hardened. Move away from the gate. My brother entered 6 years ago. Selim went still. Halvoran said, your brother is dead. Then tell me why his name is still listed as an active containment signature. That sentence changed everything. Selim looked sharply at Halvoran. I caught it. So did Rowan. The headmaster raised one hand. Security, detain him. I spread threads between Rowan and the approaching guards. Mira, Selim warned. Professor, you might want to decide which lie you are defending before you arrest us. Darius landed nearby. For once, he was not smiling. What is happening? Nobody answered. The dungeon answered for us. A column of black light shot from the gate and struck the arena dome. System text appeared over every student's vision, visible in the air itself. Grave of Stars. Final cycle initiated. Entry limit, 1. Required class rating, 1 star. Every person in the arena turned toward Rowan. For 2 years his class had been the reason everyone laughed. Now the impossible SSS-Rank dungeon was asking for exactly one thing the Academy had never valued. 1 star. Rowan read the message. Then he looked at Halvoran. You knew? Halvoran's silence confirmed it. The entrance began closing. 30 seconds appeared overhead. Rowan, I said. Do not. 24 seconds. He gave me his notebook. Page 212. No, Mira. No. If I come back, you can yell at me. 15 seconds. I grabbed his uniform. And if you do not? For the first time since I met him, Rowan looked afraid. Not of the dungeon. Of my question. Then do what you always do. 10 seconds. What? He touched my hand. Find the exit. Then he stepped backward through the gate. I launched a thread after him. The dungeon cut it cleanly in half. The stairs vanished. System text burned above the ruined arena. Challenger accepted. Rowan Vale. Class, Candlekeeper. Difficulty, SSS. Observers enabled. Around us, every surviving projection crystal turned on. The Academy could not enter the dungeon, but the entire kingdom was about to watch him try to clear it alone. The first floor looked insultingly simple. Rowan appeared on the projection standing in a circular chamber with 12 doors and 1 unlit candle on a pedestal. No monsters. No treasure. No instructions except a sentence carved into the ceiling. The brightest path dies first. Around me, professors argued over interpretation while healers carried injured spectators from the arena. Halvern ordered the projection crystals covered. Students shoved the cloths away. Too many people had already seen. Darius stood beside me with his arms folded, staring at Rowan like he was watching a different species. Inside the dungeon, Rowan touched the candle. His Kindle skill activated automatically, and the flame burned white. 11 doors lit gold. One remained black. Obviously the dark door, someone said. Rowan did not move. He extinguished the candle. All 12 doors disappeared. Then he created his own tiny flames across the chamber, one beside each former doorway. 11 leaned outward as though air was being pulled through them. The 12th stood perfectly still. Rowan chose that one. The moment he passed through, the other 11 doors opened onto pits filled with teeth. Floor 1 cleared. No sword. No attack. The second floor contained a bridge over empty space and a silver copy of Rowan waiting halfway across. The copy had every physical attribute Rowan lacked. It moved faster, hit harder, and generated enormous blue flames instead of his tiny orange ones. System text appeared. Defeat the self you should have been. The crowd murmured. Rowan's duplicate rushed him. He threw himself sideways and nearly lost his head. For 30 seconds he ran. Then a minute. Then 3. Darius muttered, "He cannot win." I remembered Rowan's words about area saturation, exhaustion, repeated systems. He is not trying to. The copy's flames became slightly smaller. Rowan scattered Kindle lights across the bridge, mapping every footstep. The duplicate copied him. More flames. Rowan increased to hundreds. The duplicate answered with hundreds of huge blue fires, burning mana at a ridiculous rate. Rowan increased to thousands. The bridge became an ocean of candlelight. His copy tried to match him, staggered, and dropped to one knee. Rowan had almost no mana cost. The perfect version of him did. He walked forward and pushed it gently over the edge. Floor 2 cleared. Someone near the royal section started laughing, but this time it was disbelief, not mockery. Floor 3 was worse. A village appeared under a red sky. People screamed from burning houses. The system told Rowan he could save only one person before the floor collapsed. Every rescued villager begged him to choose them. A mother held a baby. An old man crawled through ash. A wounded boy looked exactly like Elias. Rowan froze. I could tell immediately which one the dungeon wanted him to choose. The boy called his name. "Rowan, please." He took one step, then stopped. His face changed. "That is cruel," I whispered. The false Elias reached toward him. Rowan created one Kindle flame and held it near the ground. The fire bent toward every burning building except the one behind his brother. No air flowed from it. No heat escaped. An illusion. Rowan walked past the boy and entered the fake house. Behind the image he found a stone lever. He pulled it. The entire village vanished. Floor 3 cleared. The academy became quiet enough that we heard the rain outside. Every floor was built to punish power, ego, instinct, or emotional attachment. A stronger class would have attacked. A faster class would have rushed. A healer would have tried to save everyone. Rowan's weak class forced him to observe because observation was all it had ever given him. The dungeon was not secretly easy for a candlekeeper. It was still trying to kill him. But for the first time, I understood the difference between being weak and being badly measured. By floor 6, Rowan was bleeding from the forehead and limping. By floor 9, one sleeve was gone, and he had used his belt to bind a cut across his thigh. The grave gave him no healing potions. Every cleared chamber rewarded him with something stranger. A wick that burned memories, a brass snuffer that could extinguish magical effects once, a matchbox containing 3 black matches, and pieces of a map that did not connect. Professor Selim stood beside the broken arena gate explaining each artifact under his breath until Halvern snapped, "Stop helping him." Selim turned on the headmaster. "He cannot hear me." "Then stop helping them understand." That was when I opened Rowan's notebook to page 212. His handwriting filled both sides. If entry occurs publicly, Halvern will attempt information control. Selim knows more than he admits. Ask about the first expedition, not Elias. Beneath it, "Mira, if you are reading this, I am sorry." I looked at Selim. Who entered first? His jaw tightened. "Not now." I wrapped a mana thread around his wrist. Then I start guessing loudly. Darius unexpectedly stepped beside me. I would answer her. Selim stared at both of us, then at the projection. Rowan had reached floor 10. The grave was not always SSS-Rank, he said. 84 years ago, it was classified F. I thought I misheard. F. Its difficulty increased every time a powerful challenger entered. 2 stars made it E. 3 stars pushed it to C. The kingdom assumed greater force would overcome the scaling. They sent 4 stars, then 5 stars, then royal champions. Every failure fed the dungeon their mana signatures. By the 7th expedition, it had become SSS. Darius looked sick. So the Academy caused this. The kingdom did. The Academy was founded later to contain it. And the 1-star requirement. Selim looked at Halvern. The original researchers discovered the grave cannot scale below its initial state. A 1-star entrant would face its logic without amplifying its power. Then why not send one? I demanded. Because 1-star combatants do not survive ordinary dungeons. Because no one believed an F-class civilian could clear what had consumed heroes. Because the researchers proposed training someone specifically for observation rather than combat, and the Crown called it absurd. Rowan had done exactly that by accident. Or perhaps not by accident. Elias knew, I said. Selim's silence told me. Your brother discovered the records. 6 years ago, during the breach, he entered only the outer containment layer. He found the heart and learned the truth. Halvern ordered memory extraction on the survivors because if the public discovered generations of elite expeditions had made the dungeon worse, the Academy would collapse. Where is Elias? Halvern finally spoke. Inside. Rowan's projection reached floor 11 and stopped. A man stood at the far side of the chamber. Older, thin, hair down to his shoulders. Chains of starlight ran from his chest into the walls. Rowan's face emptied. Even from the projection, I recognized the resemblance. Elias Vale lifted his head. You took long enough. I had imagined a reunion if Rowan ever found him. Tears, questions, relief. The grave allowed none of that. System text appeared immediately. Floor 11. The keeper must choose what the flame preserves. Elias explained quickly. He had survived the containment breach because the dungeon mistook his 4-star Beacon Knight class for a compatible light-based role. It chained him to the heart as a substitute regulator. For 6 years his mana had prevented the grave from expanding beneath the city. If Rowan freed him, the final floor would open, but the dungeon would begin consuming everything above it. If Rowan left him chained, the gate would reseal and nobody would learn how to destroy the heart. How long do you have? Rowan asked. Elias smiled weakly. Maybe an hour. Maybe 6 years. Time is strange here. Rowan walked to the chains. You wrote that the dungeon tests what you refuse to lose. I was trying to warn myself. About what? Every floor offers a version of preservation. Save strength. Save pride. Save strangers. Save memory. Eventually you reach something you genuinely cannot sacrifice. Rowan looked at his brother. Outside the projection, I forgot how to breathe. Elias continued. The heart feeds on preservation. That is why powerful classes strengthen it. Their skills are built around imposing themselves on the world. More mana, more force, more permanence. Your class is different. Kindle maintains light. No, read the wording. Rowan closed his eyes as if remembering the awakening pillar. Maintains light sources. Elias laughed softly. A candlekeeper is not supposed to create eternal flame. A keeper lights what needs lighting and extinguishes it when the night is over. Rowan looked at the brass snuffer he had earned. I understood before he did. The dungeon had been giving him tools for endings. If I extinguish the heart, everything sustained by it ends. Including you. Elias did not answer. Rowan's hands began shaking. That frightened me more than any monster. He had walked through 10 murderous floors with that same controlled expression. Now he looked 16 instead of 19. There has to be another solution. That sentence is why the grave survives. Shut up. Rowan, you do not get to disappear for 6 years and then become philosophical. Elias laughed once, then coughed blood. Fair. Rowan paced. He examined every chain, tested Kindle against the floor, used the memory wick, burned a map piece, tried the black match. Nothing changed. 10 minutes passed. 20. The system began counting down. Above us, the arena cracked further. Black stars appeared through daylight. Halvern whispered, "He must leave him." I turned. You knew Elias was alive. I knew a regulator remained. You knew his name. One life against millions. I wanted to cut his throat. Rowan saved me the trouble of choosing. On the projection, he sat beside his brother. I hated you, he said. Elias blinked. For leaving? For making me care where you went. I kept thinking if I became smart enough, careful enough, useful enough, I could undo whatever happened. You became all those things. Apparently not useful enough. Elias rested his forehead against Rowan's. You came farther than everyone stronger than you. Rowan laughed through tears. That is a terrible consolation prize. Then do not make it one. The countdown reached 60 seconds. Rowan stood. He raised the brass snuffer toward the chains. Tell me one thing. Anything. Did you think my class was pathetic when you saw the awakening record? Elias smiled. I laughed for 10 straight minutes. Rowan stared at him. I am definitely extinguishing you. There's my brother. At 5 seconds, Rowan closed the snuffer over the star burning inside Elias's chest. The projection went black. For 7 seconds, nothing happened. Then the academy began falling into the sky. Stones lifted from the arena. Blood floated from injured students. The black stars overhead opened like eyes. System text covered the projection. Regulator extinguished. Final floor open. World consumption commencing. Time remaining, 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Halvern ordered evacuation. Nobody moved quickly enough. Beneath the arena, Rowan appeared alone in a chamber larger than the academy. Elias was gone. At its center floated a black sphere surrounded by the silhouettes of every champion who had died inside the grave. 7 expedition leaders, royal heroes, archmages, 5-star legends. Copies of their classes rotated around the heart like weapons. Rowan had 10 minutes to destroy something empowered by 84 years of the strongest abilities in the kingdom. Darius whispered, "That is impossible." Rowan looked directly toward the projection crystal inside the dungeon as though he somehow heard him. Then he smiled. Not bravely, not dramatically. The small, irritating smile he used whenever someone finally proved a theory. He scattered kindle flames. 10,000. 20,000. The final chamber became a galaxy of tiny orange points. The heart released the dead champions. A sword master crossed the room faster than sight. Rowan saw the surrounding flames bend and ducked before the attack appeared. An archmage launched invisible blades. Blue flickers exposed their mana paths. A beast king vanished. Air currents gave away every step. Rowan was not fighting 7 champions. He was reading them. Still, reading did not make him fast enough forever. A spear tore through his shoulder. A spell shattered 2 ribs. He fell, rolled, stood, and kept moving. 8 minutes. 7. He used the wick that burned memories and fed at Elias's charred note. The flame turned silver. Every dead champion stopped for 1 heartbeat as their own preserved memories surfaced. Rowan struck the heart with the brass snuffer. 1 layer of magic vanished. 6 minutes. He burned the disconnected map pieces with a black match. Ash rose and formed a diagram of the heart. Not a map of space. A map of accumulated class signatures. At the center was a tiny point labeled 0. The grave had started as an F-rank dungeon before absorbing power. Every added class wrapped another layer around its original core. The academy had spent 84 years trying to break inward with more strength. Rowan did the opposite. He extinguished, 1 kindle flame at a time. Every time he dismissed a light, the corresponding layer flickered. 20,000 flames represented 20,000 mana channels he had mapped through air movement. He began shutting them down in sequence. Darius stared. He is turning his weakest skill off. Exactly. Kindle's greatest advantage had never been creating fire. It was that Rowan controlled thousands of tiny independent states with almost no mana cost. On, off, on, off. He used the dungeon like a machine and his flames like switches. For minutes, the copied champions weakened. 3 minutes. Rowan was crawling now, 1 leg useless. 2 minutes. Only 100 flames remained. The black sphere shrank to the size of a fist. Then the final guardian appeared. Elias. Not the real Elias. A perfect dungeon copy, wearing his beacon knight armor, restored and smiling. Stop, it said. Rowan froze. The heart had saved its cruelest weapon for last. You can preserve me, the copy said. Leave 1 flame burning. Rowan's face broke. For 1 second I thought he would. 1 star against an SSS dungeon had never been about power. It was about whether he could let darkness exist without mistaking it for failure. Rowan lifted his hand. The last flame hovered between him and his brother's face. "I spent 6 years trying to bring you home," he whispered. The copy smiled. "Then do it." Rowan closed his fist. Darkness swallowed the chamber. The heart cracked. The dungeon screamed. System text filled the sky above the academy. Grave of stars cleared. Solo challenger, Rowan Vale. Class, Candlekeeper. Class rating, 1 star. Clear time, 3 hours 41 minutes and 18 seconds. New record established. It was the first record because he was the first person in 84 years to come back. When Rowan reappeared, he fell out of empty air onto the broken arena floor and immediately asked whether anyone had saved his notebook. I hit him before answering. Not hard enough to injure him, considering the dungeon had already handled that, but hard enough that 3 healers stared at me. Then I hugged him so tightly he complained about his ribs. Around us, nobody laughed. Darius walked forward holding the same candle he had brought to mock Rowan during the crown trial. He placed it on the ground, knelt, and lowered his head. One by one, students followed. Rowan looked horrified. "Make them stop. Enjoy your victory. This is worse than mockery." Director Halvern tried to leave. Selim arrested him before he reached the tunnel. The projection crystals had broadcast everything. Elias, the Academy records, the truth about the grave, and Halvern's admission. Within a month, the Royal Council dissolved the old administration. Families of the missing received the real records. Selim resigned and later returned as an instructor after testifying against the officials who had hidden the deaths. Darius never became humble, exactly, but he stopped confusing star rating with worth. Rowan's ranking changed from 2,881 to 1. He filed an appeal. "Why?" I asked. "Rankings measure tournament combat. I still lose to Flame Dancer in 11 seconds. The board denied his appeal. His class rating remained 1 star because the appraisal pillar insisted Candlekeeper had no combat growth potential. Rowan thought that was hilarious. The Academy offered to rename the class Starbreaker. He refused. They offered Grave Warden. He refused that too. "Candlekeeper is accurate," he said. "People just misunderstood what keeping a light means." The funniest part came a week later when the Academy published its revised orientation handbook. The first page contained one new rule in bold: never assume star rating equals dungeon value. Underneath was a photograph of Rowan looking deeply annoyed. Freshmen began asking him for autographs. He charged 1 copper coin each, exactly what he used to charge students who ordered him to light candles as a joke. When I accused him of being petty, he opened an old box beneath his bed. Inside were hundreds of those original copper coins. He had kept every one. "Evidence," he said. "Of what?" "Bad investment decisions. You are impossible. SSS-Rank impossible." I threw a pillow at him. He dodged it, which proved the dungeon had improved at least 1 combat statistic, though he denied this for the rest of the evening. I counted that victory. At graduation, they unveiled a statue of him holding a heroic sword he had never used. Rowan stared at it for a full minute, then asked if anyone had kept the receipt. I stood beside him wearing the silver badge of the Academy's new Dungeon Research Division. We had spent 3 years rebuilding its rules around experimentation instead of bloodline prestige. Before leaving, Rowan walked to the memorial wall and placed 1 small candle beneath Elias's name. He lit it with Kindle. I expected him to let it burn. Instead, after a minute, he extinguished it gently. "Ready?" I asked. He nodded. Beyond the Academy gates waited dozens of unexplored dungeons and several kingdoms suddenly interested in hiring the weakest graduate in history. Rowan picked up his battered notebook. "Which exit?" he asked. I smiled and pointed toward the road nobody else was taking. "That one." He looked at me. "Dangerous." "Probably. Badly mapped." "Completely." For the first time since the awakening ceremony, Rowan grinned like the world had finally given him a joke worth answering. Then the 1-star Candlekeeper who cleared an impossible SSS dungeon walked beside me into the dark, carrying no sword at all, just enough fire to notice what everyone stronger had missed.